This was something to behold. The Detroit Tigers and AJ Hinch going down to Minute Maid Park and seeing if this magical end of the season can continue against an Astros team that had course corrected after a catastrophic April. They won the division, but they didn't get that first round bye. They didn't get that week off where they could reset, get healthy, which is very important for them, especially with Jordan hobbled. And they had to face Tarek Skubal immediately. And while everything else on paper would suggest that this was something of a lopsided matchup, even recognizing the Tigers' bullpen numbers, everything said Houston. They had 500 more games of postseason experience, and it's the Astros in October. All right, as we said for our preview, are they really going to lose in the first round? Really? Well, the Tigers had Tarek Skubal in game one, and ultimately that was just not enough, but it basically just put them on even ground to the point where Skubal was amazing and Framber Valdez was not. And when the Tigers took, with 3 straight singles up the middle and they put together 3 runs, that is 3 runs that even with the Astros lineup, with Tarek Skubal on the mound, with him throwing the way he was throwing, that was a very, very, very large lead. And so, I mean, at that point, it was like, all right, well, let's see if Skubal can throw 110 or 15 pitches and get this at least through 8. But he's only able to go 6 as he seems to be dealing with some sort of cramping at the very end of his outing. And so they have to turn it over to the bullpen, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing for the Tigers, as here comes the anonymous army of incredible relievers. First, we have
the interchangeable Caucasians who all throw 96.
Oh my gosh. Will Vest, who, this guy was a Rule 5 pick by the Mariners. He made his debut with the Mariners. The Tigers did not protect him. They're like, yeah, you can have Will Vest for a season. Eventually, the Mariners returned him because they're like, whatever. A couple years later, Will Vest, with the outing of his life, throwing harder than ever, just nasty changeups. He was incredible. He gets 4 strikeouts of his 5 outs. Tyler Holton comes in, gets to Kyle Tucker. And then we get to Jason Foley in the 9th. And it's like, all right, what you got, Astros? You really going to go out sad like this? You're not going to do something? And they made it interesting. But not quite interesting enough. As the bat, or I should say, as the game lands on Jason Hayward, of all people.
And by this point, they take Foley out. In comes Bo Brisky, and to face Jason Hayward, who started this year on the Los Angeles Dodgers, ended up on the Astros after struggling quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, and this inning begins with Jordan, who can barely move.
Can't walk.
Truly
can't move.
Could not move. Rocket to left field for a leadoff double, his second hit of the game. Bregman single, Yainer Diaz single, makes it 3-1. And then we get this bunt. Pena bunts the runners to second and third. Amazing play by Jake Rogers to get this first out. But then here comes Brisky. Caratini lines out. Chas McCormick walks. Brisky's throwing as hard as he had in his entire life. He's touching 100. We've never seen this from Bo Brisky. Bo Brisky. And then Jason Hayward puts together a pretty decent at-bat and rips one. And rips one in a way that, for a split second, you're like, that's down the line. The Astros just tied or won the game. Like, that is what it looked like.
And the sound tells you first. You don't actually see Spencer Torkelson catch the line drive because it was faster than the camera. But you hear the crowd go, oh.
And that can only mean one thing. Game over.
See ya.
Incredible escape. But Tarek Skubal did the thing. Again, postseason debut, right? Everyone's like, all right, Cy Young. Let's see you do it against the Astros. He's like, yeah, that's fine. No problem. It's not that I hadn't watched Tarek Skubal this year, because I had, but really watching every pitch was like, holy crap. So he is very, very, very special. But then immediately you're like, who's pitching tomorrow? Because that was always going to be a question for the Tigers.
And it doesn't matter, as AJ Hinch said in his pregame press conference, our pitching strategy is Tarek Skubal and pitching chaos.
For the Astros, it was going to be Hunter Brown, and we learned shortly before the game that it was going to be Tyler Holton, or I guess shortly at the end of game when Tyler Holton, who pitched in that first game, just to one batter. Tyler Holton opening versus Hunter Brown. Hunter Brown, by the way, making his first career postseason start. He had appeared in the playoffs a few times over the past few years for Houston, but now the depth chart finally had cleared out and he had become this breakout righty and just an unbelievable, last few months of the season.
Hunter Brown, who grew up in Detroit as a Tigers fan, was he a mole? Was this a long con for him to throw this game? Was he going to allow a bunch of ding-dongs and then rip his Astros shirt off and there would be a Maglio Ordonez jersey underneath?
And all of his friends at Wayne State would just be going crazy? No. Hunter Brown was doing the opposite. Hunter Brown, you would not know Hunter Brown was ever a Tigers fan the way he was pitching in this game because he was outstanding. For 5 innings, he was completely overwhelming. He has 2 incredible breaking balls. And I've made this comp before. It's Glasnow-esque, right? He's not throwing that many changeups. He's got a little bit more of that than Glasnow, but the overwhelming heater, and of course now he's got 2 different fastballs with 2 different breaking balls, is really what makes him really special. So he's just dominant. And for 5 innings, it's him versus 4 Tigers pitchers, right? We get Holton to Hanafi to Herter to Brisky. Okay, again, sure. Tigers pitching chaos. That's the plan. But then top of the 6th, Parker Meadows leads off the innings. Hunter Brown's still in, and I don't know if it was the first pitch. I think it was the second pitch. Pulls one down the right field line. And AJ Hinch finally heard a bounce off the right field foul pole that he could enjoy. Bang! Bang! Parker Meadows gives the Tigers the lead. Of course, you know what I'm referencing. The last game AJ Hinch ever managed for the Astros, the 2019 World Series.
Howie Kendrick
went gong off the right field foul pole. This was not quite as high stakes, but Parker Meadows gives them the lead. And now it's countdown time, right? It's like, okay, awesome. Who's going to get these outs? But because they'd already used Holden and they'd already used, Brisky, I guess, we're like, all right, who's going to finish this game? And so then you realize that Jackson Jobe is warming up.
And Jackson Jobe, who is 22 years old and looks 20 years younger than that, has made just 2 appearances in the major leagues.
Yes.
His 3rd career appearance in relief in Houston in a 1-run game against the Astros.
Yes.
And you're like, wow, hey, really trust this kid. And guess what? It didn't really work.
Yeah. And this is the moment that I zoomed in on here that I wrote about because, again, his 2 appearances were up by 6 runs in his debut against Tampa and the White Sox. So this was a little bit different. Now, it was the bottom of the lineup, and Hinch talked about after the game, I put him in a tough spot. We were just hoping to get it, to turn the lineup over so that we could go to Sean Gunther to Kyle Tucker. But okay, whatever. It's still a 1-run game in this situation with a chance to advance, all these things. He's pitched in 2 major league games. Jackson Jobe was not bad, but things unraveled very quickly. He hits Caratini. We get a single after that, and then a perfect bunt from Dubon. Just beautiful. And now it's just you blink and the space is loaded and nobody's out. And here comes John Singleton. And at this point, it's no one's ready. Once they go to Singleton, maybe you could have panicked and brought in Gunther there. But no, it's okay, Jackson, do your best, buddy. And Singleton lines one to Spencer Torkelson, who makes a diving play, tries to throw home to get the force, and Jake Rogers just drops it. I mean, it was a
tough throw.
It was a tough throw, but Jake Rogers, an unbelievable defender. You would expect him to make that play, and instead the game's tied. Next batter is Jose Altuve, and now it's bases loaded, and it's Jose Altuve, and there's nobody out, and Jackson Jobe's still on the mound, and you're just how did we get here? What is going on? Is this how it's going to fall apart? But he lost one to right field, and Vierling comes in, and Pena, just an unbelievably aggressive send here to try to score on the sac fly, and he does. He gets in safely. Astros take the lead 2-1, and then you're like, all right, well, that. And again, it felt like it could have gone a lot worse because of the situation that had just been, but it was still kind of damn, was that, did we just give the Astros life? And now here comes Ryan Pressly and Josh Hader, which on paper is like exactly what you want. Ryan Pressly, 20 consecutive postseason appearances without allowing an earned run. However, Ryan Pressly in the regular season this year has been good, but he's not the same guy anymore. He's just not. And the Tigers were just unfazed and very quickly respond. They end up loading the bases. And I mean, here comes Hader to try and, stop the bleeding. This is why you pay him the big bucks. This is why you pay the closer, right? So that you can bring him in this situation. And instead, he walks Spencer Torkelson on 4 pitches. And then Andy Ibanez pinch hits. One of the, the buttons that Hinch can press on the offensive side is Andy Ibanez to pinch hit against a lefty. He does it, and he delivers. Lines the ball down the left field line, bases clearing double. Tigers up by 3, and just in a blink, it was like everything, the disaster Job inning, you had forgotten it ever happened. And the Astros at that point just rolled over, and they didn't get on base again. And Will Vest closes it out, and the Tigers are moving on. It was an incredible, incredible sequence.
That image of Hader, where he's walking back to the mound after allowing the double, and 3 Tigers are in the background, their arms around each other, jumping up and down like children who just... I have no analogy because I'm tired.
It's because it's after midnight. It was amazing.
Yeah. It was amazing. It was truly an amazing thing. And so Houston's ALCS streak is over. 7 consecutive years. And look,
Houston's ALDS streak is over.
It's funny. I want to say this. Yeah. The Astros are many things.
Yes.
They have been a great villain for our game. They have. At times deserved, at times undeserved. I personally think the Jose Altuve hate has made us forget how unbelievable of a player he is. And I think that the Astros organization deserves a lot of credit for getting to 7 straight American League Championship Series in a row. That's crazy. I don't care how many cans they were banging on or weren't banging on. That's unbelievable. That is unbelievable. And now that we're at the end of that streak, not that they're going to stink moving forward, but we reached the end of an era. This is the end of an era, right? Yeah. I canceled hotel reservations in Houston today.
I promise you, a lot of baseball writers had hotel reservations in Houston. Because that's just what you do this time of year. You book hotels in Houston.
I made those in February.
But no, listen, the fact they were even here is incredible. This team was 7-19. They proved a lot this year.
12-24.
A lot happened that while maybe Alex Bregman leaves, they certainly have
Justin Verlander.
Justin Verlander, sure, the very strange end to the Verlander tenure potentially, but man, I mean, there's a lot of really good baseball players on this team. I mean, and a lot of pitchers that are very good that could be coming back next season, right? They're not going anywhere, but I do think it is fair to describe this as the end of an era because it might be the end of Bregman, because it is the end of this ALCS streak. And then the last thing about them, just in terms of this particular season, is Yusei Kikuchi doesn't throw a pitch. Their aggressive move to trade 3 very good prospects who immediately helped Toronto and might help them next year for Yusei Kikuchi immediately looked brilliant when they won his first 9 starts and he looked awesome. And then he didn't even get to pitch.
And to be clear, that is not why they lost.
No.
Like the offense was bad.
Yeah. The Tigers pitching was great. Same thing with Orioles Kansas City. But the fact that they didn't get themselves to the whole point of trading for Kikuchi is pretty astonishing. That is a pretty amazing thing. So
it almost didn't look real, dude. Like it really didn't look real, and you could see that on the Tigers' faces.
But also 6 straight postseason loss at home. Lost all 4 games against Texas in the CS last year and against Minnesota, and then now these 2. So that's weird. So that could be something we bring up when they're in the playoffs next year.